Helen Raptis, thank you for being on my podcast.
You bet.
PDX Media Good Old Days. You're my first guest who's still in the business.
I don't even know what to say to that.
You're the only one who hasn't escaped. That must mean you love what you're doing.
I do.
Okay.
I think it's fun.
I think if you do, you should keep going as long as you want to. Awesome. You look wonderful. What a great room there with your art behind you. I recognize your art every day.
Yeah. It's the den, the exercise room. There's the treadmill. And also, it's my art studio. And then the dog door is there. There's the dog, one of the dogs.
All right.
Yeah.
I love your artwork. You paint in acrylics, is that right?
Yep.
And you've been very successful. I mean, you're selling your stuff, and people are contracting you for commissioning stuff, right?
Yeah. So like the one behind me is a Stacey Abrams. I did another. The first Stacey Abrams I did, I sold right away, and then a friend asked me to do one for him, so I'm doing one for him. So yeah, it's kind of crazy. In fact, it started getting really crazy. I did Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and I painted her the night that she passed away because I was so upset.
Yeah.
And I showed it to one woman, and she immediately bought it. And I was like, okay. And then she said, you need to do mugs. And I said, who's gonna buy a mug? Who's gonna buy a mug? Carl. It's over 500 months later.
Oh yeah, good for you. I have one that you did for us, for Jill, for her birthday of our dog. Yes. We have that sitting on a shelf, not in this room, but and that's awesome. Have you? I mean, I knew you were artistic. Have you always painted like that, or did you get to a point where you started and said, I want to be better at this, and I want to have an art career with this?
Oh, I always painted as a kid, and I took a few lessons in college, and then dropped it all together, I think, in my 20s, because I just didn't think I was good enough. And then I picked it back up again in my 40s. I'm 61 now, so I picked it back in late 40s, early 50s. So, and then recently I took a class, like last year, a year and a half ago, I took a class, and it just got me really going, like really, I've done different styles, and it constantly changes, it evolves, so, and I think it was, I want to say, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, Richard Bloom asked me to do some paintings for his shop. And I thought, really? He wants me to do that? So little by little, people have bolstered my confidence, and then each step has gone up higher and higher. And so things that, the art has changed over time. And then the things I've done with the art has changed over time too. So,
well, I think what you're doing now with the prominent women that you're painting, like Stacey Abrams and RBG, I mean, there's a, I don't even want to call that a niche. It's a real powerful artistic expression about really important women. Yeah,
I agree. I did. Yes, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Shirley Chisholm. I don't know if people younger than us know. I'm working also on Gloria Steinem. Okay. And I did Erma Bombeck because I'm playing her. So yeah, and I did Dr. Fauci. Dr. Fauci's pretty popular.
Yeah.
The ladies love Dr. Fauci.
Sure, and they should. I love how honest he's being right now.
I know, isn't he being great? But we always knew that, right? We always knew he was going to be straightforward and honest with us and tell us what we needed to know, not what somebody wanted us to know.
Which is the journalist in us. That's not the liberal or conservative. That's the journalist in us. Is we want people to be factual, and that's what he has always wanted to be, and certainly can be now. So that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me ask you about Erma Bombeck, because you're doing a show, a one-woman show, and I think what's cool about this, other than just that you're doing it, and I know you've done some of this before, is that in this COVID time, it's getting released online, people can, instead of buying a ticket and going to the show, they're buying a ticket and they can stream it, which is unique, necessary, and really kind of awesome, isn't it?
Yeah, although it's not live theater. I mean, nothing can change live theater. Nothing can change being there, And also it's unlike doing a television show where you have multiple cameras and audio and close-ups and all. I mean, it's just filmed one night on stage, and that's it. So there's some feel to a live show, but you're not there in the audience. So there's good and bad.
Yeah, and I guess the difference.
But that's COVID times. We're gonna do what we need to do, right?
The difference is that you're not doing AM Northwest in the morning, going home, taking a nap, and doing a show at night for 3 or 4 straight weeks, which in itself can be an enjoyable experience. This is
done.
Yeah, exactly. You've taped the show, and the show will get streamed out when people order it, right?
Yeah. So so now I have no control.
No,
it's over. There you go. All the things I screwed up on the day we taped it, it's there.
It's left forever in the virtual world. So tell me about Erma Bombeck. She was this great comedic writer, and tell me about the show and her voice that comes out through you.
Well, I thought I knew Erma Bombeck, that she was a stay-at-home mom and that she was very funny. And I remember her from her GMA days, being on Good Morning America and having a segment there. I mean, I remember that as a young person. And just that she took ordinary and made it funny. And, and really was truthful about what goes on at home when other people weren't being truthful about what goes on at home. But what I didn't know was that she was a big Equal Rights Amendment supporter, and she went out on the road and tried to get states to say, yes, let's pass the Equal Rights Amendment, which I thought was fascinating in itself. And that her marriage was really interesting. She and her husband had a very easygoing marriage. Nothing out of the ordinary happened. I didn't know her oldest daughter was adopted. I didn't know it took her a while to have kids, and I didn't know her story of growing up. Her dad died when she was 9 years old, and her life just completely was upended, which happened to a lot of women back then. And actually, I connected with Erma because my dad also died when I was 9 years old, and my whole world turned upside down.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you've got a single mom, and your world is no longer the same, and now you're struggling to survive where before everything was calm and easygoing and predictable. Then everything becomes unpredictable. And
fate deals you a left turn in a hurry, and you have no option other than to deal with it, and you don't know how. Right.
So I connected with her on that, and it was I just have a newfound respect for her. So she was an incredible woman.
I kind of think I remember I read one of her books. I read some of her columns because she had a column in the newspaper. If you had the right newspaper, it was titled "If Life is a Bowl of Cherries, Why Am I in the Pits?"
Right.
Yeah, and I just remember loving it. She reminds me, although she talked a lot about more home life, but she's kind of like a Dave Barry, that she can just spin. She can spin words into really meaningful thoughts, but also funny as hell.
Yeah, I mean, really funny.
Yeah.
And her delivery was very deadpan. I mean, she didn't set things up and then they land like a joke. It's just a conversation, And her interviews with Johnny Carson were really interesting because she wasn't a comedian per se.
Mm-hmm.
It was a conversation that she had, and she really made him laugh, which was great.
Okay, her sense of humor in that setting reminds me of our great friend Dave Anderson.
Yeah.
Who he was, he's a comedian. He knew how to do a setup and a punchline and all that stuff. But if you had a conversation with Dave, he would think of the funniest things off the top of his head, just like that. And that's the way Erma Bombeck was.
Yeah.
In that you weren't setting up bits. You were just having a conversation, and they're always the funniest people in the room and probably the smartest.
Yeah. Dave was so great, so hilarious in just conversations. So hilarious. And, I interview many comedians. I've interviewed a ton of comedians. And there's a difference between the people who can have a conversation and be funny, just chatting.
Yeah.
Than the ones that need to be standing up, and that's okay. But you need to be standing up and then giving your jokes, and you have a routine. Unlike, I mean, I've sometimes interviewed comedians where they give me this joke, or here's what we're going to talk about. But Dave was one of those comedians that you could just sit there. Every morning meeting was a riot.
Yeah.
Every morning meeting was just hysterical.
And when Dave was hosting the show, you guys were awesome together. Obviously, right after I did, and we'll talk about that. But if you went on vacation, we'd come in every once in a while and start the show with him and have that conversation. And I loved it because, again, that conversation, he was so funny, but he allowed you to be funny.
Yeah.
And he would laugh. And again, I always equate really good comedy or funny people with intelligence. I mean,
Yes.
You got to know stuff to be funny.
Yes.
He was so smart about so many things.
Yeah.
I mean, he might not have been able to help you with your algebra homework, but the guy knew a lot of things about Portland, about being a parent, about the business, and he was so smart. And he was the funniest guy in the room, but he allowed you to be funny too.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely.
Which he did for you every day.
He was kind of a bit of a psychologist too. Just.
Yeah.
You could tell if you were not doing well, he could tell how to pull you out of your mood and then how to press your button. If he wanted to tick you off, he knew how to do that too. I mean, he's just
that was the best part of the show when you guys were hosting, when he would push you button.
Yeah. And because he knows how to do that. He knows what gets people. Yeah. It's like he can read you, like I think if he wanted to, he could have been one of those good psychics on the Psychic Network because he can just read people.
Yeah. Well, let's see. You started, again, here's the gig on my podcast. I don't do any research. It's all from memory, and I'm wrong often. But you started at King TV in Seattle as kind of either a receptionist, but also kind of an audience coordinator for their talk show, right?
Yeah. So I started out as a receptionist at 18. I ended up being a little producer on a teenage talk show, and then worked for Seattle Today, and I did the audience coordinating. So yeah, brought in the audiences, warmed them up. I did a little warm up thing, took care of all the production stuff, made the coffee, greeted the guests, that kind of stuff, wrote the thank you notes, and then became floor director at King TV. And then after that, I moved to Montana and became. I did sports in Montana, and I also hosted my own little talk show, Helen and Helena, so in Helena, Montana. And then moved to Eugene. I got a job at anchoring and news reporting at KVAL in Eugene. And that's where
let's get back to what I like about your story starting at King is that there are so many people we know that, you tell people, what do I want to do? I want to get in business. How do I get in? Get your foot in the door.
Yeah.
Get your foot in the door. Be good at what you do, no matter what it is, even if it's being a receptionist or the audience coordinator or the floor director, and you're going to learn. And once you do that, then, I hate to be cliche, but the sky's the limit. Is you do exactly what you did. Is you turn that into what is now, more than a 40-year career in the business.
Yeah.
Right? By getting your foot in the door, working hard, and learning.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did. Yeah, I mean, because the receptionist job, I wouldn't have found out about working on a brand new show that had just started about teenagers, and that led to then being producing the audience for the Seattle Today. That led to floor directing. That led to helping to produce on Seattle Today. Then that led to other things. That led to my own talk show in Montana. I mean, it led to a lot. And you got a lot just being there.
And you got to be willing to do anything. It's like, hey, we need somebody to do this. Boom, there you go, do it.
What I did. I almost lived at the station because I had so much fun. I'd go on shoots. I'd learn how to shoot, learn how to edit. Yep. That's exactly what I did.
I remember I had done sports at Channel 8 for 6 years, and I moved into reporting in the news department. A lot of it was feature reporting. But one weekend, they were looking for a weekend anchor. To fill in for somebody who was, somebody's on vacation, they were short notice, somebody was sick. And I'd never anchored the news. I'd anchored the sports. I just walked in, the guy said, hey, if you need somebody, I'll come in and do it. Boom. I'm anchoring the weekends, and then I fill in the next time they need somebody, blah, 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 blah. And then, I get lucky and start working with Brenda in the morning, with Dave and Brenda, and we do 9 years of morning news, and eventually come over and do it with you at Channel 2, just by saying, hey, I'll do it.
Yeah. And I did that a lot. It was just like, yeah, if you ever need me, let me know.
Exactly, yeah. And one person that comes to mind, the producer of AM Northwest, Leslie Martin.
Yeah.
Is Leslie still there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, she started out as a secretary to the news director at KGW. And, we always knew she was, one of the smarter people in the room, but that's where she started. And she was efficient and good at her job and took care of everybody. And she's been producing.
The big joke about Leslie is that she would be our phone a friend on Cash Cab.
Yeah.
So smart.
Or millionaire, right?
Yeah.
I gotta write that one down. You're right, Leslie Martin. She knew everything about everything.
Yeah. I mean, now they don't do phone a friend on Cash Cab. They do something else. I forget what they do. Or if you have an illness, you call Leslie, Dr. Martin. I've got that's what Dave Anderson used to do. Dr. Martin, I've got this pain here, because he was kind of a hypochondriac. I've got this pain here. What do you think it is? And then she would go through a litany of questions, and then she'd go, I think it might be this. Okay, I'll call the doctor.
So you came to Portland, as I remember. You came to Channel 8, and was it PM Magazine or Good Evening where you were?
It was Good Evening, and I was reporter for Good Evening. That was really fun.
And who was host? Was Teresa hosting then?
Yeah.
Teresa and Jack McGowan or Craig Walker years?
Just Teresa. It was just Teresa.
Really?
Yeah. And then later came your friend from Seattle,
Ed White.
And
Ed White.
Ed White. Yeah.
My friend from Seattle. We were high school friends, played tennis together.
Oh, I don't know why that stuck in my mind. He's in Australia now or something.
Yeah, he's a sportscaster in Australia. I talked to him quite a bit Facebook-wise and that kind of stuff. So, and then over to Channel 2 to be the reporter on AM Northwest. Am I right?
Yeah. I started as just like what we were talking about. I'm available to do whatever. After Good Evening was canceled, I ended up working in news for a little bit, and then I did promos. I was in the promotion department.
I remember that now. Yeah.
And then
you had to come down and ask all the news people, hey, I need you to do this. And that's not always the most cooperative because people are busy.
I can tell you what, I did not like that job.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I like the putting together of the promo. It's the getting the news anchors or reporters to tell me what they thought the story was about. And that wasn't fun. Yeah, that's not fun.
And that wasn't belligerent. That was low on their priority list, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And busyness, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And also, they sometimes may not know exactly what they want to reveal about the story that they want to give, which I get that. But yeah, K2 called and said, we have an opening here for someone to fill in the promotion department. And I said, sure, I'll do that. I had applied at AM Northwest before and not gotten it. And then I was over there and I said, let me know if you need someone to fill in. And they said, so we need someone to fill in as they go out in the field.
Yep.
And then they didn't hire for a while. I ended up working at Coin even for a summer. And then I got a call from the producer of AM Northwest saying, how about coming in to do part-time and be the roving reporter? And so it was called the Roving Redhead was my gig.
Yeah, I remember. That was a great label. I loved it. And so was that with Lindman and Mary Starrett?
It was with Bosley and Rebecca Webb.
Oh, I forgot Rebecca Webb hosted that show.
Yeah.
So I go back now. We'll get to that again because I helped you host that show for a couple of years. I watched it in the summertime. TV geek that I was. I just loved Margie and Jim Bosley. I loved it and everything. But Margie and then Mary Starrett, Rebecca Webb. Are those the three folks?
Yeah. In fact, I'll give you a Margie connection. So up in Seattle, I had joined the production team of the Seattle Today Show, and I heard about, and then Margie came one time to fill in for our female host who wasn't there, who had to go on leave. And Margie came to fill in. I remember looking at her, honest to God, I remember looking at Margie and going, first of all, she's beautiful, but then I remember thinking, that's what I want to do. Look at how, and she goes down to Portland, and she gets, and she hosts a show there, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do. And I remember thinking that. And then to meet her years later, and now we're good friends, that's kind of wild, right? I think that's a whole full circle kind of thing.
Well, I feel the same way because growing up watching her and Jim Bosley, and she's really damn good at it.
She's so good.
And
she's very, very smart.
There's a bit of a crush on her. And then to meet her, I think I met her at a Portland Beavers baseball game after she sang the national anthem. I went up and said hello, and I'd seen her in a play. And now, being in the business in the same town, know each other pretty well. I'm hoping to have her on the podcast. She said she's going to come on the podcast. Just a little busy right now. She and Bosley really laid the groundwork for that show, which I think AM Northwest is a treasure. It's been around. It's getting close to 50 years. In a local market, those kind of shows don't survive. They haven't survived in most TV markets. But to have it be that successful and that long running I'm just so glad I got to be a part of it for those 2 years that I was there.
Yeah,
it's a great thing.
Yeah, it really is. While things are different now, like their sales segments, there are still moments when it's just really fun to be a part of the show and interview really interesting people, and be the pulse of what's going on in the city is kind of fun too. So I like all of that. In fact, going back to Margie, when I actually met her, and she had no clue who I was, but from Seattle, we did a play together, and it was called Tomatoes, Hot Sweet Tomatoes, or something like that. We were all women in the media, and the subject was mostly about menopause, and it was really funny. So it was Margie and Cheryl Hansen and me and Paula Gunnis.
Oh, that's Hall of Fame TV, Portland TV women right there.
All one play.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
So you were the field reporter for a while, and then you eventually stepped into the hosting position.
I was always filling in. Seemed like I was filling in, and then at the point, Kathy Marshall and Paul Lindman hosted, and then Kathy Marshall and Ken Ackerman hosted, and then so I just kept filling in, and then eventually I filled in so often that I don't remember the clear line between when I genuinely got the full-time job of doing it on a regular basis.
And I joined you in 2005. I left Channel 8 where I had been there for 22 years. And I would not have changed stations if AM Northwest wasn't on the table. I basically, they were looking for somebody to host, and my contract was up at Channel 8, and just the opportunity to be part of that show was so attractive that I decided to leave where I'd been and thought I was always going to be to go do that. I remember when I was leaving. Long story about how I left Channel 8, and I'm going to save that for the podcast. But when I eventually told them, I said, I'm going someplace else. I can't tell you where, but I'm going to get to do something that I've always wanted to do. And then the news director tried to guess and bluff and all that kind of stuff. It's not important. I'm getting to do something that I've wanted to do since I was a teenager. So, I mean, I'm not leaving out of anything that's happening here, but this is this great opportunity. And so I think it was almost 2 years, but not quite 2 years, that we hosted that show together. We also anchored the news together.
Right. And remember the noon news? So we did the early morning news.
Yeah.
Then we hosted AM Northwest, and then we did the noon news. That was crazy.
That was a full day.
It was exhausting and a full day. Yeah.
I say that doing what I liked about AM Northwest, other than being there with you and the treasured history of it, is live audience. Kind of like your plays that you do. Live audience when we were there. 5 or 6 different segments or different guests that were different. You went from interviewing. We interviewed Senator Gordon Smith after his son had committed suicide, to a local or some celebrity who was coming through town, or household hints, or just such a variety of things. So you had to be on the top of your game.
Yeah.
You had to be able to do X and then Y, and then in 2 minutes during a commercial break, get ready to do something physical. All the while there was an audience there, you had to kind of keep entertained anyway. I felt that challenged me the most, and I had the most fun doing that. I did a lot of wonderful things. I was lucky enough to do that, but being part of that for that time is a treasure. I really loved it.
Yeah, when there was a full audience and they were loving the show, it was great.
And that the change in the show happened right then, after when you and I were doing it. Is they took it out of news, they put it into
sales
or production.
Yeah.
And they took away the audience, which was, I think that was again, if you can talk about this is okay, but I think I remember it being a financial decision about insurance and things like that. And
so they took it away for 4 days. They had audience only on Fridays.
Right, I remember that.
It's also getting harder to get an audience because everybody works for the most part.
Yeah.
So
so because they took it out of news, we couldn't do both. Mm-hmm. And because some of the segments that you do are purchased by people who want to advertise their products, and I mean, no surprise, it's a sales segment, but it's still informative, and you still do a great job of it. But you couldn't do that, you couldn't do the news.
Right.
So
one or the other.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I chose news. I think they chose it for me. I would have had to, chosen news, and that's when you came in with Dave. Or Dave came in to do those many great years that you guys did.
I honestly, I really missed doing news. I loved anchoring the newscast and seeing stuff happen right then and there. I love knowing what was going on. I really missed that. But there you go.
Yeah. I don't miss it now.
No. I only missed what it was then.
Yeah.
I don't miss what it is now. And like Angelica Thornton, and they do such a great job on the morning newscast, and she's so sharp and on top of it. I wouldn't want to take part in that right now, especially with all the news that's happening.
Yeah, it's a different time. When we started in news, there was the 5 o'clock newscast, and you did your story for the 5 o'clock newscast. Now there's a 4 and a 5 and a 6:30, and the 10 o'clock that you're doing for the independent station, and the 11 o'clock, and you got a tweet, and you got and I kind of did that for a while and could handle it, but it's just different kind of storytelling than we used to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of social media, and I honestly was just thinking about it today. I'm really feeling for especially the young women that are doing the newscasts and having them to tweet and Facebook and all that stuff, and the comments that come from the viewers. I don't know if you follow any of the local reporters who have to tweet out everything, and then the stuff that they get from, I'm getting serious here, but from men viewers. And these men viewers put down the young women like nobody's business, or will say sexual things to them. It's just bizarre that you're forced to do that. And then they put their lives at risk going out to do news stories because they're threatened all the time.
Yeah, I can see that happen. I mean, it's not unusual. I remember, people would send emails or letters, mostly to women, either creepy or, why are you doing your hair that way? Or who dresses you? They would not send that to the men. But now the access through social media is so much more immediate.
Yeah, they feel like viewers who do access feel that personality is their friend, or is so close to them that they can say anything they want. Yeah, it's a little too close.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I hope for their sake that they can ignore, but it's a weird social media culture right now that they're much more used to it than we are.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's very true. And I've made friends with viewers over the years, have become friends with them. And then I love it when someone says something negative, and then the rest of the people jump on them. It's just great. I have my own support group.
Yeah. Well, we're friends on social media. And I'm just curious, if you have Helen's account and Helen's official TV account, because you are opinionated and about certain issues, and you're not afraid to speak out and post things about what you believe in. I know I've seen you be critical of people that, hey, this is my space. This is what I'm going to say. If you don't like it, move on.
Yeah. So I have a personal page, and then I have a fan page. I don't have an official K2 page. That's never happened. There is an AM Northwest page.
Okay.
So that's about as close as it gets to the official, but that's more about it replays segments and that kind of thing, or ask questions. So yeah, I still can't be really, Carl. There's some things I really want to say that I can't really say. So I can't really say everything. What I've done though is kind of on my personal page, it's people who feel the same way I do.
Yeah.
It's rare that I have someone that I haven't figured out that they don't think the same way I do.
Well, you're not ready for it, but when you retire, you can say what you want to say.
Yeah. It's gonna come. It's gonna flow.
Yeah, which has become my stand-up career.
Do you make jokes about being in the news business?
Not as much as you would think.
Okay.
Some, but I just it's not funny to me.
Yeah, I get it.
But I like to tell the people that I want to come see me. I tell them it's like PG-13 or maybe PG-18.
Yeah.
I try to keep it clean, but I talk about really mature topics
Yeah.
that are funny. So, and then the young people I'm working with, I'm the oldest in the group of comics that I work with. They're PG like 28, 29, 30.
Oh,
So,
wow.
so if you're coming to see me, the people that are before me and after me might be different for you. So
yeah. Oh, absolutely. I did want to say something. It is like AM Northwest is fun in that so sometimes the interviews are just a blast. The people that I talk to are just a blast. I mean, it can really be fun. And then you have the people that you work with. So like Steve Denary, who produces the show, he's really very funny. And sometimes he can pull jokes on me, which he does. And it's just kind of like the other day, it was a total Anchorman moment. Getting ready to introduce a cooking segment. And I look up, I've pre-read my intro, and I look up and I start reading, and all of a sudden it says that I love cauliflower, which I hate cauliflower.
He wrote that in the script?
But Denary had changed the script right before I went on, so I didn't see that. And then so since I love cauliflower, wait a minute here. I don't love cauliflower. Everybody who knows me knows that. Or was it Brussels sprouts? It was Brussels sprouts. There's a recipe to make delicious so-called Brussels sprouts. But anyway, I just thought it was so funny because so that you can have a little fun. That's not the stuff you can do in news. You can't do that kind of thing in news.
Steve Denary, who you refer to as Boss Man on the show,
Boss Man,
is he still director of promotions?
Yeah.
Yeah. I told him before I left, he's the best at that job that I ever dealt with in 31 years.
Yeah, really.
He's very dry. I was never sure if he liked me or not, but he's
I'm never sure if he likes me.
But I mean, and I know that he's been real crucial, integral in AM Northwest and how it's molded over the last 10 years. But he is really good at what was a difficult job in any newsroom or any TV station of promoting things like that.
And
any other really, what are the funniest things that, when people ask you, hey, what's the funniest thing or the weirdest or the hardest thing you've ever done, or the worst thing that's gone wrong on AM Northwest? I mean, you've done it so many years. There has to be an answer to that.
I'm trying to think. One of the things was one day, there was another room, another studio next to AM Northwest where, remember, Debbie Armand would have people coming in from around the nation, and they would do satellite interviews. So anybody famous stopping would do satellite interviews, and Denary sometimes would grab the person I grab the person in that studio and bring him and say, okay, you're going to interview so-and-so, like with no warning, no warning. Okay, now I'm not going to understand this because I don't remember the name because I don't know rock and roll. I don't. And Daenerys says, so-and-so's coming in. I said, oh, that's great. I don't know who so-and-so is. I have no clue. And I mean, everyone in the audience heard the name, and there was an audience, and they were just like so excited, and everybody on the staff was so excited, and everybody, and I was like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? This big time rock and roller who I have no clue who he is. And he sits down, and Daenerys so excited, and he's in my ear, talking in my ear, and I said, so what are you doing in town? You know, just like, what do you do? And then Daenerys said, ask him about the time he hit himself in the head with a guitar. Okay, so did you ever recover from that time you hit your, and then that he told this story, the guitarist told the story. Now someone will be able to figure out who it is. I don't know. But it was one of the, like, how would you feel to just get someone just tossed on you like that?
Oh, yeah.
Here you go. Like, what? You know?
But you're a professional, and you probably people at home had no idea that you were clueless.
I think a few did, but that's okay, you know?
So
I mean, there have been multiple, go ahead.
I have two to go over with you.
Oh, tell me.
One was Dennis Leary.
Oh,
you remember the Dennis Leary story?
I don't remember the story, no, but I remember Dennis Leary.
So you and I are doing the chat part about, hey, what'd you do this weekend? And I had made jam.
Ah! I remember the story now. Okay, yeah.
Because that's what I did. We had raspberry bushes, and I would pick raspberries, I'd pick blackberries, and I'd make jam, and I'd give them to all my coworkers as my Christmas gift.
That is such a Carl Click thing to do.
I know. So while we're chatting about making jam,
people listening on the podcast, Carl Click thing means a very all-American, sweet, good old boy kind of sweet thing to do. I made my jam. I'm gonna give it to my friends. Okay.
But I would make jam, and I'd give it to everybody that I work with on my shift or at the show for Christmas, and people, it was pretty damn good. And
yeah, it was really good.
People would like look forward to it. I'd come into the newsroom on the morning of December 23rd, and oh, good, the jam is here or whatever. And every once in a while somebody would say, hey, did your wife make this?
Yeah.
Hell no.
I
made my jam. So we're talking about I made jam this weekend, and Dennis Leary is waiting because he's our first guest on a satellite.
And I love Dennis Leary.
And so he overheard the whole thing, and he just basically took my man card away. Before we can even start the interview, he goes, now wait a minute. Did I hear right, Carl, that you made jam? And he just tore me apart.
He did. He made fun. Like, what else do you do, Carl?
But here's we ended before we got. He said, "Tell you what, if you send me some of that jam, next time I'll be in Portland, I'm coming to do your show live in person." And
jam.
I brought in a big jam, and Chris Garrard made a label, and we sent it to his people. We never heard back. But Dennis Leary,
they always say stuff like that, and then they never follow it.
Oh, but yeah, I bet if anybody comes up to Dennis Leary and says, "Hey, do you remember the guy in Portland who made jam?" He would remember it because he just tore me apart.
He's such a funny guy. He's a good one too. Yeah.
So here's the other one. This is after I left the show, and I think it was unfortunately after we lost Dave. There was a comedian on the show who was just being a butt.
Oh, okay.
And all he wanted to talk about was some band called
Florida Georgia Line.
Yeah. And so you'd ask him the regular question. These people would come in on Thursday because they were doing three nights at Helium, and they would be, and it was pretty regular for comedians to do that. And he just didn't want to be there, and he was being a butt. And it pissed me off.
Yeah. So before the show, I can't remember his name now, so that's probably good. But we did have a live audience that day. Before the show, he was really a nice guy. I mean, just super nice. And I had done my research on him. So I'd gone through his Instagram and Twitter and found pictures of him with his mom camping and some other things, and I was talking to him in the green room, and seriously, just nice guy, 20-something, nice guy. And then I'm sitting out on the set, and he comes walking out. and his whole demeanor changed. Like his hair looked all of a sudden sloppy, and he looked kind of like he was out of sorts. He looked fine in the green room. I was just talking to him, and he had said something back in the green room about how he's not allowed anymore on the Jimmy Kimmel show. I think that was it. And I said, why is that? Oh, you know. And I said, oh, that's just so odd. That's so odd,
We
right?
found out, didn't we?
Yeah. And then I asked my first question, and he said something about a drug. What was the drug that was big back then that people took it and they would eat somebody else's face?
Ecstasy?
No,
Mm.
you're not the right person to ask that question of,
Was it
honestly.
Advil? What?
No, it wasn't Advil. Anyway, so I forget what the name of that drug was, but every question that I asked, he answered with Florida Georgia line. Well, I went to the Florida Georgia line, and I'm looking at him, and then he would say something else about, yeah, I took some of that blah 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 drug, and it's an outrageous drug. So to hear it was kind of startling. And the reason he brought up Florida Georgia Line was that was the band playing on GMA as right before he came into our show.
Yeah.
So he was watching that in the green room, and that stuck in his mind, I guess. He just kept doing it, and then first I laugh and the audience laughs, but then after a while it starts to get really irritating. And then I think I said, well, now we know why you're not allowed on Jimmy Kimmel anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was, and thankfully Daenerys said, let's just end this, because it wasn't funny. And I give comedians a lot of extra leeway.
Yeah, sure.
I laugh even when I don't think they're funny for a while, to give them something to feel good about, right? And then he was just being a jerk.
Well, go ahead. Do you got more on that guy? You took some drugs between when you talked to him and
no,
he's going to be
he was trying to get a viral moment.
No.
That's what he was trying to do. He was trying to get a viral moment, and it didn't work. He put it on his Twitter page, and his fans like, yeah, you really got her. Like, yeah, if that's what you call funny, but I do have another one.
Well, let me finish that one, because here's my reaction to that. I was watching back in the newsroom, and it pissed me off. And I was this close. It crossed my mind to walk down there and walk right onto your set and to say to the guy, you are being so incredibly rude to her. Here's what we're going to do. We want everybody to go down to Helium and buy a ticket, because we like Helium and we want them to succeed. But I tell you what, we're all going to go down there and buy a ticket, and we're going to sit in that audience, and we're going to be assholes to you like you have been to her. We're going to heckle the hell out of you and see what you think.
Go, Carl. You go.
I didn't, because I'm Carl, but I probably could have got fired for that, but should have.
Yeah.
I really should have. How would Daenerys have reacted to that?
I think he would have loved it. He was pretty pissed off. He was really pissed off. And it's the same, who was the guy that used to smash pumpkins?
Gallagher. Watermelons, yeah.
He was the worst watermelons. He was the worst guest, and a complete a-hole. Just a complete, he took over and threw money in the air and called woman a name in the green room. There were two in the green room, and he made Leslie cry. One of our segments was going to be on suicide, and Gallagher said, people who kill themselves, their family deserves it, because blah, 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 blah. And one woman in the green room said, that's uncalled for. And then he called her the B name, and they got into, an argument. Leslie's crying, and I don't know this is going on behind the scenes. Then he comes on. Yeah, then he comes on, and he's just a complete jerk. And it was just, we pulled him off early, because like, okay, here you go.
Now we know he's, where is he now? Yeah.
And he was apparently caused quite a problem at Harvey's. He was at Harvey's that weekend.
Okay, yeah. Well, that's not how you get
also
work.
That's the excitement of live TV too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you don't know what's going to happen.
And you've got to interview some of your heroes. And what a great, just so many people come through that show. A lot of it's now by satellite, but I remember being just tickled that Tony Orlando came through and we interviewed him together.
Yeah.
And Peter Yarrow from Peter, Paul and Mary.
Yep.
It's a great show, Helen, and you've been so great on it.
Thank you so much, Carl.
I hope it lasts as long as you want it to last.
Me too.
So let's remind folks that the title of the Erma Bombeck play is
At Wit's End.
At
That was
Wit's End.
the number columns, yeah.
And to go online to get tickets so you can stream it is through.
Well, it's called 5 Ohm TV. 5 spelled out 5 OHM. You know what I'll do? I'll send you a link and maybe you can put that on your.
I will do that. It'll be in the show notes because I've gone there already so that Jill and I got our ticket so we can watch it when it.
Now have low expectations.
What's that?
Have low expectations.
Of you? I have the highest.
Lower them.
No. I've worked with you and I've adored you for 20 some years. My expectations are as high as they can be.
Well, give Jill a big hug for me though.
Yeah. Well, thanks for being on my podcast.
You're welcome.
I love it and continued great success. Say hi to all our friends there at AM Northwest.
Will do.